Hey folks, still a little under the weather, but I did some reading, watched some YouTube videos, and I think I know what we need to do to get our our browse screen sorted out. So we worked on this a little bit last time, tried a couple different things, none of them worked. Ultimately, what we want to do is let's see. I can show you this before we get started. So we want screens for managing this, which we have, and this, which we don't have yet. So we're going to work on that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out of here. I'm going to do something a little bit sneaky here, which is that I'm going to go get my collection view and I'm going to cut it. I'm going to go then and get a container view and put it where that used to be. I'm actually going to get two of them, like that. So what that's going to do is it's going to give me these two views, which I'm then going to use to make my two different scenes that we can have on this page. Okay, so first I'm going to set the constraints on that one. 20 on the top, 32, 32. This is going to be 0. It's not going to be right. So when I click it, with this baby out, it thinks that it is supposed to be the container view top. It's not. It's supposed to be the super view. And it's supposed to be to the bottom of the super view, not the top. Good. Okay, so that's our first one. And then our second one right here is going to have similar constraints. So let me make this a little wider so I can get the constraints thing, exact same constraints. 20, 32, 32, 0. Beautiful, beautiful. And so now you'll notice that our things here increased in size. I want them to not cross, and somehow I'm having a lot of trouble with that. So I think in particular this one's got a constraint messed up. This one looks right, actually. How about this one? What am I on? How do I click? Like, this one's the right size, and this one is huge. And I'm trying to figure out why. Let me undo whatever I had done. Oh yeah, so it's this one that's causing the problem. So let's take a look at the constraints. Trailing safe area, leading safe area. Bottom space to the super view is equal to negative 464. Well, that's a problem. There we go. Okay, so this one we now have to do again, which is sad because it wasn't the one that was causing the problem in the first place. This is like when the big sibling starts something and the little sibling gets in trouble for defending themselves. Okay, there we go. Why are they crossed again? Oh my gosh. There. Okay, so we've got these two views. They're container views. These are called container views. Okay? And they each represent what's going to happen in this space right here. So now, remember how I cut my collection view. Watch this. Now I'm going to paste it like this, and then I'm going to set its constraints to zeros all around. Da 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 da. Are you so mad at me? Okay, so now in order to hook this all up again, it looks good. But what you're going to notice is if we go to the Browse View controller, this little circle is empty. And what that means is that we lost our connection. So we have to reset our connection. We're not actually going to be able to do that in the Browse View controller. What we're going to do instead is we're going to make some new view controllers. So inside of here, I'm going to make a new UI view controller. We're going to call it phrases. Phrase category view controller. Phrase category view controller. And what that's going to do is it's going to end up managing our collection view. We're going to make another one, and it's going to be called clan view controller, I guess. Clans view controller. Clan view controller. Clans view controller. Clans list view controller. I don't know if I like that name either. Whatever, man. Alright, well the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to give this a background color so that it'll be clear when we have this working that it's working. Because Lord knows we've had enough experiences with this at this point. Okay, so now this is where it gets confusing, is because each of these are going to be represented as views in our Browse View controller, but they're actually whole view controllers. So this one here is going to be our clans one. That's the clans list view controller. And then this one here is going to be our phrases category view controller. And what we need that for, this has to go away, is you can only connect up views on a view controller to the code for that view controller if that view controller is the superclass for the one on your storyboard. So I want to go to the Browse View controller and actually steal a lot of this, and we're going to put it in the phrase list view controller. So I'm going to steal all of this. We'll deal with that in a second. And we also want all of this. So let's get our phrase list view controller up on the right. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this view did load and this like thing it gives me commented I don't want it. Great, and I don't need this and I don't need that, and it's annoyed about that. We'll fix that in a second. I want my extensions for my collection view data source and delegate, which we made last time. And it's upset because those two delegates, or rather those two protocols, weren't implemented, but they are now, so it's going to be fine. So now what we're going to do, this is upset, that's fine. All we need is did switch views in there. I'm going to go to my main.storyboard, right, and now I should be able to connect up my thing. Ta-da! So that needs a minute to think about its life, because I don't think there's anything actually wrong. What is your problem? Browse View controller has no member categories. Yes, it does. There must be a scoping. I must have messed up my scoping. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to clean this thing and then see. Oh, very upset. Cannot assign value of type phrase, category, view controller. Oh, you know what the problem is? Can you guess? I said I didn't rename this when I moved it over. Phrase, category. So the browse view controller was getting credit for implementing these protocols, not the phrase category view controller. That was my bad. I'm sorry, Xcode. You were right. Alright, we appear to be less angry now. That's great. Now we have this clans list view controller, and it doesn't have anything in it yet. That's fine. We need to go back to our browse view controller and work on our did switch views thing here. So I need to get the main.storyboard up. And what I need to do is I need to link up these views. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to my browse view controller. You see how I have two container views here? Okay, so one of them connects to this one, and one of them connects to that one. And I can't tell which is which. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guess, and if I get it wrong, I'm going to rename them both. So let's do phrase list phrase category collection container. And look, it's going to set it up as a UI view, even though it takes you to a whole view controller. That is confusing. And so I just want to explicitly call it out because your intuition is going to tell you it doesn't make sense, and your intuition is right. Next, we need to do our clan list. Clans list container. List container. That might be wrong. And so now we're going to change out these categories collection view thing here for whatever we set up there. So I'm going to get rid of this so that you can see. Okay, so this now needs to be phrase category collection container. And like I said, we might have these backwards. And I haven't figured out a good way to tell, and so what I do is I guess. Okay, let's see how it goes. Launching. Look how much smaller our browse view controller is. So teeny. Oh my gosh. Look, it looks cute again. We fixed this in the last video. Okay, so this is clearly wrong. But that doesn't work. Ah! I'm not sure why it took a second. So I want you to notice that we have these totally backwards right now. And we need to deal with that. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to do this. We're going to rename these. Clan list view container. Is that right? Yeah. Clan list view container. And this one's going to be phrase category view container. Refactor, rename. Phrase category view. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this there. this there. So we basically flip them. And actually what I want to do is I want to look at this on my Pro for now. We'll deal with how we want that thing to show up on teenier screens later. How we want the collection view to show up on teenier screens later. Moment of truth. Okay, look how pretty. And then da 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 ba 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 ba. We've got our 2 containers working. This is pretty great. Now let's go ahead and put a table view in the clan one to make sure that works. Because that was what we were struggling so much with last time, was like we were able to switch. That wasn't the problem, but our table looked ridiculous. It looked ridiculous. So now we're going to fix that. Y'all, when I tell you it has been a week for me health-wise, I don't know what is wrong with me. I'm losing my edge. It's not, I don't think I have COVID. I just had like a bad reaction to the flu shot. And I had like a little procedure done. A lot happened. Okay, here we go. Putting that here. Zeros all around. Add the constraints. Let's give it a let's give it, first of all, give it a 1 prototype cell. And then we'll give it a few prototype cells. 2, maybe not 10, that's kind of a lot. And then let's set our estimated row height era. And then on the cell itself, set the row height to 80. Pull off this automatic thing. We know we want bigger cells. So let's see how that looks. We just want to make sure the boundaries on it look right. And it's not like offset or anything like that. Because that's what we ran into in our last stream. Which, again, I wasn't feeling well. And had also done no preliminary research. And so we tried like 3 things. I thought it was 2 things. Turns out we tried 3 things and none of them worked. Cute. Oh, look how nice it looks. Y'all. So now my eyes are getting bigger than my stomach, technologically. And I want to start customizing these cells. But maybe I'll restrain myself and do it in the next live stream, because the big point of this one is to open every simulator on my machine. No, the real point behind this one was to get this situation working appropriately. Although there is one thing that I would really like to do, because it's really bugging me, which is that I want to change these labels. Can I change them in here? Because, like, what are they supposed to be? Not first and second. They're supposed to be phrases and clans. Clans. Phrases. Can we just do that? I promise I won't add more stuff. Just want to fix that one thing, and then this can be a nice self-contained stream about using the container views. Phrases, clans, isn't that nice? So there is one last thing that I want to mention about this, which is that I'm going to have each of these views, these view controllers, fetch and handle their own data. If you needed to pass stuff from the parent into these view controllers, you would treat them as view controllers rather than as views, and you would pass that information in a segue. So let me show you what that would look like theoretically if I were doing it in this app, which I'm not. You would override the prepare for segue. Oh God. So you would do this, and then you would give each of these segues, you would click on it, and you would give it an identifier. You have to give each of them an identifier. And then what you do is you come in here and you say, if segue.identifier, whatever your identifier is, then if let destination equal. Now this is going to be segue destination view as whatever your type is. So suppose we were doing phrase category view controller. Then you could do destination dot whatever your categories collection view, let's say, equals your collection view. Or you could set, suppose you wanted to set the categories here and pass them through, you could do that. Ta-da. If this were a variable, which it's not, it's a let constant. But that's the idea. And then what you would do is else if segue dot identifier equals, or you could use a switch, you could use a case statement if you wanted to. But what you do is you would go down, and for each of the two identifiers, where is it? For each of your two identifiers, now remember this is in the attributes inspector, you get this identifier for the segue. So let's just use an example. Category and for the purpose of this example, I'm just going to set that to a new. And then let's say other, let's say clans, segue, identifier. Let's just do the whole example. So this is going to be phrase, categories, identifier. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come in here. And we're going to do, we're going to set this thing's identifier to phrase, categories, identifier. And this one's going to be clans list identifier. It's very important that they match exactly. Phrase, categories, identifiers, clans list identifier. And then you would do if let destination equals segue.destination as clans list view controller destination dot whatever you have on there. We didn't add anything to ours, but suppose that you had like an attribute on here. Whatever, we're going to do this to be. So we could set our background color green on there, or whatever attribute you want. If you want to pass things into here, this is how you would do it. If you want to pass things into your two separate like child view controllers, this is how you would do it, is with this prepare for segue method. Okay, but we are not needing to do that because our view controllers are going to handle all their own data, at least for now. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and make a commit. Pardon me. Oh. And we're going to call this commit switch between phrase, category, collection, view, and plan list view. Change the selection labels to match data. Great. There is one last thing that I do want to point out that we can do, which is that right now we have this did switch views and the sender is any. So right now did switch views is going to capture any like value change event on any given view that we've set the connector on. So we can make this a UI segmented control just to be super clear, because that's what it is on our storyboard, and you'll see that this still works. I like to be super explicit if I can. And you see that it still works. Now that means that we don't need this, we don't need to cast it now, because we already know that it's going to be that specific type. So we're going to get rid of that. And I'm going to set this to sender. And that should be it. Let's just make sure it works real quick. Pretty sure it does. Da-da-da-da. Alright, so let me go ahead and amend the commit with that. Git status, git add, git commit dash, and then take it. Perfect. Alright, and I'm going to call it on a high note. We'll probably get to either that table view or maybe populating our collection view from an API in the next stream. Have a good night, folks.